Hello and welcome to today's lesson about estimating products. First, let's talk about an important vocabulary term that you will need to remember today for our lesson. Magnitude estimate, a rough estimate of whether a number is in the tens, hundreds, thousands, or other powers of 10. We discussed magnitude estimates at length in the last video. Now let's talk about estimating products. When estimating products, there are two important steps that you must follow in order to do the process correctly. The first step is to round both factors to the nearest multiple of a power of 10. Let's look at these three numbers to give us an example so we can understand what that means. Basically, all this means is that you're going to be using something called front-end estimation. This term is not important, just the idea behind it. When you round the number 362 to the nearest multiple of a power of 10, this means that you're going to round it to the largest place value. So I'm going to round the 3 using the 6, and that's going to tell me that this number rounds to 400. Next, with the number 47, I'm going to do the same thing where I use the biggest place value, which is the tens place, and I'm going to round that 4 using the 7, which is going to tell me that the 4 becomes a 5 and rounds my number to 50. Finally, with the number 3000, the process is the same. I'm going to round the 3 using the 1 because the 3 is in the largest place value in my number. 3128 is going to round down to 3000 because 1 is less than 5. Step 2 is to then find the product of the rounded numbers. Let's look at two examples. First, let's look at the problem 36 times 74. As we discussed on the last slide, I am going to round the 3 using the 6. Any number that is 5 or above rounds the number before it, in this case the 3, up. Any number that's 4 or below rounds the number down. So in this case, 36 is going to round up to 40 because 6 is bigger than 5. That means that 36 is closer to 40 than it is to 30. Next, we're going to round the 74 using the 4, and since 4 is smaller than 5, we're going to round 74 down to around 70. This means that 74 is closer to 70 than it is to 80. The next step is to simply multiply these two numbers together. So all I have to do is multiply the 7 times the 4, which is going to give me 28, and then I have to add zeros for the number of zeros in my problem. In this case, I have 2. Here's 1, and here's 2. So I'm simply going to add 2 zeros to the end of my answer for a final estimate of 2,800. Let's look at the second example on the right side of the screen now. 5,192, when we round it, is going to round down to simply 5,000. Remember that rounding down doesn't mean changing the number that's in the first place. It means changing all of the rest of the digits, all of these numbers, to zeros. 5,000 is a smaller number than 5,192, so we did in fact round down even though we didn't change the 5. Next, I'm going to round 764, rounding the 7 using the 6, which is going to round it up to 800. And then I'm going to multiply. 5 times 8 is 40. And then I'm going to count how many zeros I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm simply going to add 5 zeros to the end of my problem. Then I'm going to start at the right side of the number and I'm going to put commas in to show my number correctly. So I've got a comma here and I've got a comma here every 3 digits. And the answer to this problem is 4 million. Here is your practice problem for the day. Estimate the product of 7,298 times 652. Good luck!